At 6:15 in the morning, Sarah is polishing a leather briefcase beneath the roof of a bus shelter. The wind pushes cold rain across the pavement. Her fingers are stiff, and the cloth in her hand is already damp. Still, she works carefully around the brass clasp, the worn handle, and the corners that have begun to lose their color. 6 months ago, these hands were typing in a corner office. The briefcase sat beside her desk then. It was newer, darker, and almost invisible among the things she believed would always be there: a laptop, a security badge, a calendar filled with meetings, and a paycheck arriving every other Friday. Today, the briefcase is one of the few objects she refuses to abandon. Sarah is a fictional composite character. Her story is invented, but the path through it is painfully familiar. It is the story of a life that did not collapse in one dramatic moment. It narrowed quietly, one ordinary decision at a time. Before everything changed, Sarah managed financial operations for a regional company. She had a master's degree, 12 years of experience, and a reputation for remembering details other people missed. She corrected spreadsheets after midnight. She trained new employees. She answered emails during dinner because reliability had become part of her identity. Her apartment was not luxurious. It was a one-bedroom place above a pharmacy, close enough to the train that she did not need a car. On Sunday mornings, she bought coffee from the same shop and called her mother. There were framed diplomas in the hallway and unopened mail on the kitchen counter. Nothing about her life looked fragile. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, an invitation appeared on her calendar. 15 minutes. Human resources. Her manager did not turn on his camera. The company called it restructuring. Sarah called it temporary. She received severance, thanked everyone professionally, and carried her briefcase home on the train. For the first week, she treated unemployment like a project. She built a spreadsheet of applications. She revised her resume for different roles. She contacted former colleagues and wrote careful messages that sounded confident without sounding desperate. The first rejection was easy to absorb. So was the fifth. By the 20th, each message had begun to feel less like a decision about a job and more like a verdict on her usefulness. Her severance covered rent for 2 months. Unemployment benefits helped, but not enough. Health insurance became a calculation. Groceries became smaller. She canceled subscriptions, stopped buying coffee, and told her mother that work was busy. Shame often begins as an attempt to protect the people who love us. Sarah believed the next interview would change everything. She bought a transit pass instead of paying the electric bill in full. She kept her phone active because employers needed to reach her. She paid for a clean blouse and delayed a medical appointment. Every choice made sense by itself. Together, they formed a staircase going down. The eviction notice arrived in calm, formal language. It did not mention the late nights she had worked, the degree in the hallway, or the taxes she had paid. It listed an amount, a deadline, and the consequences of failing to meet it. Sarah read it 3 times. Then she placed it inside the briefcase behind her resume. She sold the television, the desk chair, and most of her books. She stored 2 boxes with a former coworker who believed Sarah was moving between apartments. The rest went to the curb. On the final morning, she wore her charcoal coat and locked the apartment door. She kept the key until she reached the train station. Then she placed it in a public trash can and stood there longer than she meant to. The first night without a home was not spent under a bridge. It was spent in an airport terminal, beneath white lights that never dimmed. She sat upright with the briefcase looped through one arm. Every 20 minutes, she looked at the departure board as if she were waiting for a flight. At 4 in the morning, security asked to see her ticket. She apologized and left. That was how Sarah learned that homelessness is partly a problem of time. Public places open and close. Trains stop running. Bathrooms are locked. Benches are divided by metal rails. A person without a private room must negotiate every hour with someone else's rules. At 7 each morning, Sarah still wakes up. She washes in a public restroom and changes into the blouse protected inside her backpack. At 9, when the library opens, she chooses a computer near the wall. She charges her phone, checks email, and sends resumes. She does not go to the library only for shelter. She goes there to remain visible to employers while becoming invisible to everyone else. Inside her backpack are a bottle of water, a wrapped sandwich, a charging cable, toiletries, and a business suit folded inside a clear garment sleeve. The suit takes up space she could use for a blanket. She keeps it because an interview might come tomorrow. The briefcase holds copies of her diploma, references, identification, and the eviction notice. It is an office compressed into a portable container. It is also evidence that the woman sitting beside the outlet once belonged somewhere else. People sometimes imagine homelessness as a permanent type of person. They look for a certain face, a certain voice, or a certain history. Sarah does not match the picture in their minds. That does not protect her. At lunchtime, office workers move quickly past the library windows. Their shoes strike the sidewalk in practiced rhythms. Sarah watches people carrying laptops and coffee cups, moving between buildings she could once enter without explanation. Her own black flats are worn thin at the heel. She places cardboard beneath the insoles when rain enters through the seams. The people passing her do not see a master's degree in the backpack. They do not see the budget forecast she once presented or the employees she trained. They see a woman sitting too long in a public place. Judgment is fast because context takes time. Sarah's greatest fear is not hunger. It is the moment an employer asks for an address. Forms assume stability. They ask for a permanent residence, reliable transportation, professional clothing, uninterrupted phone service, and references who still believe you are doing well. Each requirement is reasonable. Together, they can become a locked door. One afternoon, Sarah receives a request for a video interview. The library's meeting rooms are full. She walks 6 blocks to a hotel lobby, chooses a chair near a blank wall, and balances her phone on the briefcase. She smiles when the call begins. She speaks clearly about process improvement, risk controls, and cross-functional teams. She does not mention that she slept for 3 hours. She does not mention the wet socks in her backpack or the security guard watching from across the lobby. The interview lasts 28 minutes. 2 days later, the company thanks her for her time. There are moments when Sarah wants to throw the briefcase away. It is heavy. It marks her as someone pretending to commute. Its clean lines make the rest of her life look more chaotic. But every morning, she wipes it down. The ritual is not about leather. It is a way of saying, I am still here. The person I was has not disappeared simply because the room around her has. In the afternoon, a librarian named Mr. Alvarez notices that Sarah always leaves the computer exactly on time. He does not ask where she sleeps. He tells her about a workforce center that allows clients to use its address and reserve a private room for interviews. The service does not rescue her. It gives her one less impossible problem. At the center, Sarah meets a counselor who helps her replace a damaged identification card and explains how to list a mailing address without lying. She receives a transit voucher and a locker large enough to store the suit. The changes are small enough to sound disappointing, but stability is often rebuilt from things that fit in the palm of a hand: a key, a transit card, a phone charger, an appointment written on paper. 3 weeks later, Sarah interviews for a temporary accounts payable position. The job pays less than the one she lost. It has no corner office, no title she would once have considered progress, and no guarantee beyond 90 days. She accepts it before the manager finishes the sentence. Her first paycheck does not buy an apartment. It pays for a room in a weekly motel, laundry, medication, and a pair of shoes that keep out the rain. That night, Sarah places the briefcase on a small table beside the bed. For the first time in months, she does not loop the handle around her wrist. The room is imperfect. The walls are thin. The lock sticks. In the morning, she will still carry everything important with her, but she can close a door. Homelessness is not a permanent identity. It is not proof of laziness, ignorance, or moral failure. Sometimes it begins with a meeting invitation, a shrinking bank account, and the belief that help will arrive before time runs out. Sometimes the distance between a corner office and a bus shelter is only 6 months. At the end of the day, Sarah walks toward the last train. The briefcase is still scuffed. The backpack is still heavy. Her future remains uncertain. But she is moving. Behind every person we pass is a chapter we cannot see. And sometimes the only difference between their life and ours is a door that stayed open a little longer. What if it were you?